that you chose to join today, whether it's afternoon for you, early afternoon, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, post-dinner. I should have eaten dinner, one of those. My name is Ailene Gerhardt. I am an independent board certified patient advocate. I am the founder of the Navigating Solo Network, as much of my work really focuses on helping folks who identify in some way as navigating solo with some aspect of their aging process and planning. And so I created the Navigating Solo website, navigatingsolo.com, and out of that have launched programs. And I will also share with you a podcast that's out there now, specifically about solo aging, all of that. So the flow of the evening, afternoon, etc., will be that I will offer a short presentation, just really looking at some just prompting ideas for living a dynamic life, ideas that probably you have encountered already along the way because you chose to join us today. But just some reinforcements, maybe some ideas you haven't come across or haven't thought about. And then we will go ahead and I will give a prompt question related to that topic about something we might as individuals want to explore. We'll break into smaller group, meaning 10 to 15-ish, depending on how many people have joined us from registration. And you'll have small group conversation about that topic for about 20 minutes. We'll come back together and have sort of a share out in general ways, not, Ailene said this, but more, we talked about this came up, et cetera, et cetera. And so we'll have that larger group conversation, and then we'll wrap up hopefully by the top of what to me would be the 8 o'clock hour on the East Coast. And if you're kind enough to just do the math based on your time zone, I'd appreciate that because I usually get that wrong. So that will be the plan. You are welcome to use chat to continue to introduce, to continue to connect. The goal of this kind of program is multi-leveled, and really the idea is to be able to connect with individuals, hear from, learn from, and with each other, etc. And so I am going to share my screen. I am recording the presentation, but the small group discussion doesn't get recorded, any of that. So, but this way for folks who weren't able to join us and they do want to see the presentation, they'll have access to being able to do that as well. So I am going to share my screen and we will go ahead and get started. Okay, so hopefully you see it in slide mode, right? And you're able to see my cover slide here. If anybody wants to just thumbs up it, then I know we're all looking at the same thing. Fabulous, thank you, and good use of thumbs. So, right, so hey, we can check off exercise today too. So as I said, my name is Ailene Gerhardt. I'm an independent board certified patient advocate, solo aging educator, founder of my business Beacon Patient Solutions, and this initiative, the Navigating Solo Network. And earlier in the month, launched the podcast, the Navigating Solo podcast, of which I am the host, and I'm thrilled to have a variety of guests, which we'll talk about towards the end, because it would be great if you would consider being a guest as well. So today I thought we could look at navigating a dynamic life. But what's really important to me when we have conversations about various topics is that we're all hopefully speaking a shared language, no matter what you call it, whether you call it solo aging, whether you identify as a solo, whether you identify in a variety of other terms. For me, the concept of solo aging, or as I like to put it, navigating solo, is really a framework. It's not a definition. It's not a card carrying, it's not AARP. No one's going to send you anything in the mail. It's more a framework that you might see yourself reflected in some way on this slide. So it could be someone who did not have children, may or may not be married or partnered, lives by themselves and or with a partner, or had children, but for a variety of reasons, either geography, family dynamics, an unwilling or inability to assist, adult children or other adult family members are not able to play an active role, so that that individual is without a reliable support system. And so for me, the crux of it is the reliable support system. So hopefully that gives you a sense of a framework where I'm coming from when I refer to solo aging. And again, use your own phrasing. That's totally up to you, right? Everyone self-identifies, of course. So in my work and the way I look at planning, aging in general, and then specifically in my work with folks who identify as solo agers, I look at 7 planning components. And those components are intentionally framed this way in a circle where they all touch. Circles have no beginning or end, and neither does the planning process. So it's a subtle nod to that. The connection is that when we look at one of these pieces, of course, it affects and is connected to all of these other pieces. So for me, those 7 planning needs are healthcare needs and management. Certainly as a healthcare advocate, that's big on my thinking list. Separate from that is advanced care planning, healthcare proxies in general, what I want and what I don't want for care if I'm not able to advocate for myself, residential decisions, financial decisions, legal matters, having a robust and hopefully age-diverse support network, and then living a dynamic life. And so even when we look at living a dynamic life this evening, we will find that, of course, it touches on these other pieces as well. So, but I just wanted to give you a general framework to go on. So what could be a recipe for living a dynamic life? Being able to cope with change, maintaining strong connections, being active, finding meaning and joy, keeping your mind sharp, having a clear understanding of your needs, financial, housing-wise, daily, all of those different pieces. So that could be a recipe to follow. So some ways to explore that can be taking up a new hobby, taking a class, crossing something off of what I refer to as I want to do list. Some other people may refer to it as a bucket list. But for me, I don't, the bucket thing just doesn't work for me. So I look at it as an I want to do list. Reconnecting with someone I've known for a long time, which is why old is in quotes. Right? Someone I've known for a long time, but I've lost connection. I might want to write, certainly volunteer, consider mentoring. And then a real key component is being a lifelong learner. And I'm fortunate that every time I give any kind of talk or I'm at any kind of program, I always remind people, hey, you already get to check that off because we're having this conversation now. So you are clearly committed to lifelong learning. And I just thought I would offer some benefits as well as some additional ideas. So the benefits of lifelong learning, I know we probably go through life feeling like we know, but it's always good for a reminder. Cognitive health, really that continual learning to keep our brain active and stimulated as a way to slow all kinds of decline when it comes to cognition. Our emotional and well-being can really benefit by having a sense of purpose and fulfillment, and certainly reducing feelings of isolation, loneliness, sometimes just a feeling of disconnect. Really important to consider that. Of course, all of those are connected with social connections, being able to participate in a variety of different ways, formally, informally, through different settings, gives us really a strong boost for emotional and mental health well-being. Being adaptable, right? So having adaptability, right? That learning to cope we looked at in terms of a recipe card, being able to adapt to societal changes, which seem like they are happening every minute of every day. There has been a significant shift in the role technology plays in our lives. If for no other example, then we're all over the country. We chose at an agreed time to all join each other at this particular location on the internet to be able to connect with each other. So, and technology is moving for better or worse. I'd like to say for better, but at a very rapid speed. And so for us to feel that we have access to easily being able to adapt to a variety of new circumstances while maintaining independence is really important. I think about empowerment a lot, right, in terms of the work I do in navigating the complexities of healthcare. That in and of itself is daunting. The idea is for my clients to be as empowered as possible so that in any sense, whether that's navigating healthcare or any of the other pieces in our lives, we're able to make informed decisions about these various things. And to do that, it really gives us autonomy and confidence at a time that it might feel overwhelming or like we don't have the control we might need because the system feels large or the situation feels large, etc. And our physical health is of course really important as we age. Any kind of physical movement in any way, in any position, certainly serves us well. So that's something that also we can benefit from in terms of lifelong learning courses or activities we might embark upon. Resilience. We hear a lot about resilience. I have mixed feelings sometimes when I include resilience. I like tenacity actually a little better, but it fit nicely in the slide. But right, the notion of really the tenacity, the resilience, the having a growth mindset, really being able to navigate the challenges of aging with a proactive approach. Now, it's great to do it positively. Life doesn't always afford us that opportunity, although it's great to try as much as we can, but really to be as proactive as possible can be really helpful as well. I like to approach everything with creativity, to have that spark of creativity, a new hobby, a new interest. We may find ourselves with late life community involvement we weren't expecting, or even a new small business or some level of entrepreneurship that we weren't expecting either. And then overall, of course, our quality of life. What lifelong learning and living a dynamic life does to enhance keeping our mind sharp, our social connections, having a sense of accomplishment, all of that is really, really a tremendous benefit from lifelong learning, no matter how you frame it or define it or approach it. So I like to remind people about third places. It is if you haven't come across this phrase before or this concept before, it's a concept that are often our most intimate, most connected, deeper connections can sometimes be found in our home, depending on the structure of our home. And that a lot of connections often come when we're in a workplace setting, so that we have those connections as well. I like to sort of shift that a little bit and modify it to sometimes volunteering or mentoring or a connection or a leadership role can also play the role of a second place. And so those often can be where the connections can be made. But then there are all these other places that we interact with daily, weekly, monthly, every few months, annually, etc. And those places can include senior centers, community centers, libraries, faith communities, volunteer organizations, online programming, parks, classes, etc. And so if you haven't given thought to the places you experience as part of your daily, weekly, etc. routine, it's good to think about that in terms of what opportunities might be available for lifelong learning, for enhancing connections, etc. So some other ways can include embracing your interests. One of the things about connecting with people based on your interests is that it also affords you the opportunity often to meet people of all different ages and all different stages in life. And that, of course, in and of itself can be really life enhancing for you, and to be able to give that to someone else as well. You can see the list on the screen if you're not on the phone, but enrolling in a course, visiting a museum, exploring a city you've always wanted to explore, making a list of things you want to do, taking a writing class, all of that. As a healthcare advocate, I always like to make the plug for how this all ties into navigating our own health. It's not subtle, I admit, but I like to do it anyway. Right. And the notion that social engagement really gives us that sense of purpose and sense of motivation. And we know that although we cannot change the science of our health, we do know that those pieces greatly impact for the better healthcare outcomes. So it's just good to think about. And I appreciate you letting me, indulging me and letting me share that in my hat as an advocate. So that was a lot of information, a lot of talking really fast. As I said, I recorded the presentation. I'm happy to share any of the details as well. But I thought it would also be, often people are like, that's great, you've told me sort of the what, but what's the how, right? It's great to know the what, but how do I do that? Where do I go? What do I explore? What might be available to me? And I know that in the resources I share, it will not be as comprehensive as you probably would like. And if there are local or national resources you have found helpful that you've vetted and that you trust, right, about reliable resources, feel free to share them in the chat as well. So I like to remind people what's in your own neighborhood, your own community, right? So community centers, senior centers, they have different names in different places. They're different things in different places. Community organizations, libraries are really serving now as community centers in a lot of ways, and hubs of all kinds of great community benefits. So I am fortunate that I have partnered with a number of libraries in my work, and I really love seeing how the libraries are evolving that way. Connecting with a faith community, if that's part of your inclination, can also be a place for additional lifelong learning, like-minded connections, that kind of thing. Always great to think about. If you don't know about the Elder Care Locator, it is an outstanding resource. When it first came along, pre-internet, it was a 1-800 number. It has now, of course, adapted with the times and has outstanding resources available online. It is a government website. The resources are vetted and reliable, and I only suggest resources I've vetted and feel are reliable and really inclusive for anyone. This works for some people in some parts of the country and not in others. The village to village network. And the Village movement is about membership organizations with all different levels of membership fees or none, that offer services, programming, classes, ways to connect with each other. It's a great resource. If you haven't checked it out and there is one in your community, I encourage you to do so. There are really two sort of national level resources for that are specifically focused on LGBTQ plus resources. Outstanding Life, which is a newer resource. It's a virtual senior center, which is very neat. So if you haven't checked that out, and that would be something that you would benefit from, or if you know someone for whom they would benefit, definitely encourage them. And SAGE is a national organization advocating for older adults as well. And those are two, and they both have additional resources that launch after and from their websites. AARP has, within the last 5 years, partnered with Senior Planet. They offer all kinds of programs, activities, etc., on skills and saving money, getting in shape, making new friends. There may be some of you on here who have even been able to teach through that, or certainly have connected to it as well. Many communities have the OLLI program, which the non-abbreviated version is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. It is often connected to a university or a college. Again, fees range dramatically around the country, but there are all different classes offered as well. So that's something certainly to explore. If you are somebody who is open to connecting with resources online via social media, Facebook has a number of different ways to connect with people. I fully understand and respect anyone's reticence to not do that. But there are a number of groups focused on navigating solo aging, number of groups, of course, on people's interests. Might be something to think about, as well as Meetup, where the demographic of folks who use Meetup the most are really 60 and over, which is really very neat, I think. And so the idea is for people, it's really socially minded, for people to connect with different groups, different interests, all of those kinds of things, and explore those. So it might be something worth exploring as well. I always like to provide people with some really great books on the subject of solo aging. Sarah Zef-Geber coined the phrase solo ager, joined us for to offer greetings for our Savvy Day launch this past May. Sarah's book is excellent, and both Sarah's books and Joy's books. Joy's two books are on the right. Sarah's book is on the left. All three of them are available in library systems across the country. I like to suggest resources that are available and accessible no matter how people access their resources, either buying books to add to their shelves and their libraries, and or accessing them by audio or accessing them by the library, etc. Quick snapshot of the work I do with focus on solo aging. I am happy to discuss that with anyone, but that is not part of this particular program, but I do offer very brief free consultations where we can have a conversation about where you are and what you might need. As I said, I founded the Navigating Solo Network really because as the pandemic came into really its peak, unfortunately, there were a lot of online programs being offered, talks being recorded, interviews being recorded. And I was really thrilled to see solo aging having really great visibility, but there wasn't a one-stop shop for being able to find that. So someone would share a link, or someone would send out an email. I found this article, I saw this. And so the idea was to create a resource library and website where all of that is connected. So if you are somebody interested in the topic, you can check out the books, connect to articles, recorded presentations, videos, interviews, podcasts, etc. There are also launching points for local resources, so the national organization, and then you plug in where you are to find resources. There are, believe it or not, now research and reports on solo aging, which is fantastic and gives some more opportunity to continue to bang the drum. So those are available, as well as some of the infographics that were created for Solo Aging Visibility Day, Savvy Day, as well as ones that I've created since, that if you are trying to increase visibility about solo aging, those are available to you as well. The only thing I request is that you not take off the branding, that you are welcome to support it, link it, attribute it, all of that. So, and add to, but please don't delete from. A lot of times when I offer navigating solo events that are sort of general, people say, oh, we've really touched on the surface, but I'd like more. I'd like a deeper dive. And so I created a Navigating Solo 201 series. The information's on my business website, Beacon Patient Solutions. It gives you the topics, it gives you the dates this fall. It will be running via Zoom. Anyone who identifies as a solo ager, or however you term it, is welcome to register as well. As I said, that's the link for the podcast. And you are welcome to listen to it. We've had some really great traffic thus far in the few weeks that it's been live. So that's really exciting. It's available as a YouTube video if you want to watch it. And it's also available on all podcast platforms. You may listen to your own favorite podcasts or explore new ones. So before we launch right into small group, I just wanted to stop sharing for one. Can certainly chime in as well. So thank you for that. Carla.
I just had a question to this solo aging groups that they're talking about in Denver and Northampton. What are these support groups, or these working groups where people actually are working on some of those components that you referred to in your presentation, or are they just like social groups?
So that's a great question.
What is the nature of them?
So like anything in the world, right? Right. Choose your own adventure, pick your own flavor, write your own culture. But the idea behind sort of the foundational piece of connecting with others is to be able to talk about different things you may be thinking about, connecting with each other and having social experiences. There are people who are seeking accountability, right? I know as a human being that holding myself accountable often for a whole variety of things is sometimes difficult. But if I say it out loud, not on a recorded event and not to 50 plus people, but if I say it to perhaps 2 or 3 people, right, I might be more likely to ask questions, follow up, because I've already articulated it. And so, so the idea could be accountability in terms of, I really want to clean out a closet. I really want to interview an attorney. We don't have to be thinking about the same thing, but we want to share that with each other and see how that's coming along. There are people who create kinship groups, support circles, where it is support, where intentionally support, it's social connection, etc. And it may also evolve over time. So I know there's a trendy phrase, yes, and I don't like it, but in this particular case, it can be all or a variety of things. And anyone who wants to start one, think small, connect with one other person, see where it goes. Your community centers, senior centers, libraries would all be happy to house you for these groups, because you're doing the work and they'd be happy to give you a place to convene. And I'm happy to talk about that with anyone. As we're at the top of whatever hour it is for you, for me, it's 8 p.m. I want to respect that. I know there are folks who had to log off. Are there any other groups who or individuals who wanted to share before we just wrap up? No? Yes? All right, so we have things cooking in Colorado, no pressure. We have lots of different folks who are involved in all different ways. When this event ends, there will be a separate tab that opens on your device that is for a survey, and you can opt into sharing your contact information. I'm sometimes slow to do it. That's back to that one person shop thing. But I will get you the contact. You are welcome to share whatever you'd like in chat as well. That will be saved. If you are somebody who wants to save chat, if you press on the chat button, in the bottom, there's usually a picture like of a Post-it and a smiley face. And then there's what's referred to as an ellipse, horizontal 3 dots. If you press that, you should be able to hit save chat. And at least on a PC, it gets saved in a documents folder that's named Zoom that you probably didn't know was there dwelling on your computer. But that is where you can find that, and I will make sure to follow up with that. Allison, did you have something you wanted to share as we wrap up?
More question. I wanted to see if we could get your contact info for people who are interested in talking to you about your podcast or some of the other things you do.
Sure. So the easiest way is either info@navigatingsolo.com or info@Beacon Patient Solutions. I will send out a follow-up, which should be from my email. And if your spam doesn't eat it, you'll have my contact info that way. But those are, and you can also send for the podcast, you can send email to podcast@navigatingsolo.com. So, and all of it is on the website. If you are a website navigator, you can certainly use that as well. And I try to be as responsive as possible. But most importantly, I thank you for joining us today or tonight, again, depending on where you are, maybe tonight to everyone now. We do these free events a couple of times a year. And then there are other events that sort of have nominal fees, or there are classes or discussion groups. But the idea is for people to be able to connect with each other, learn from and with. There are some faces on the screen I haven't seen in a while, so I'm thrilled to see you again. And for all the new faces, I am thrilled to see and meet you for the first time, and hopefully not the last. And so feel free to drop anything in chat. And if you can fill out the survey. Again, all that does is tell me what you're interested in hearing about, what you might want to hear, right? We had the topic of transportation, chronic illness, things you shared in registration that didn't just sort of fall off the map. I have that as a list, so that way we can address those things and be a support going forward in any way I can, and plugging you into folks that are local or more in your region as well. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Have a great rest of the evening, afternoon. And thank you, and more thank yous.